Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Are you a big Van Halen fan? I can't even remember. I know we've had this conversation. I know you don't think they're as good as I do, but I can't remember. You are a fan?
I like a lot of the things they did.
Okay, good.
And I don't like a lot of the things they do. So
Okay.
I think they're a very, variable band. I think they have some songs that are among my favorite songs, to be honest.
Danny Clinkscale is with us here in studio. Danny Unleashed, we like to call it, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Check out their Google reviews. People love the Easton Roofing. Danny and I can both attest, as they have done projects at both of our houses. Happy to do repairs or the whole roof. A lot of people don't want to mess with repairs. There's not big profits in repairs. Not a problem with Easton Roofing. Integrity, it matters, is their slogan for a reason. Call them at 913-257-5426. You can find them online at eastonroofing.com for commercial and residential roofing. It's Easton Roofing, 4 straight years, voted best of houses, and Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Take advantage of it. No payment till you're 100% satisfied with Easton Roofing. Danny, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing just great, Soren. I know that you wanted me to prepare thoroughly for this segment, so I went to the Royals game today and covered the Royals game. I figured you'd appreciate that.
I'm going to be honest with you.
I was looking to see history made. The Royals were trying to win their 5th game in a row for the first time this year.
I don't think it happened, but I can tell you that I'm only 90% confident because I didn't actually take a look at a final.
It did not happen. Things looked rosy when they jumped out to a 3-0 lead. And I was writing a blog.
I'm not trying to be flippant, by the way, but are you like me? Like, since I was treated to good baseball for the first time since I was a child with their 5-year window
right.
of playing competitive to very good baseball, great,
right.
Championship caliber baseball, I can't do it anymore. I can't go back and be like, let's grind in here and see if they got something with this Schmoberger they just picked up from the Yankees.
Well, they had one player playing his 3rd ever career game today. They had 2 players make their major league debut today. And so the top of the lineup was sort of like, hey, fans, here, look, you get to watch these guys. And then the rest are like, oh.
Well, I mean, do you understand? Like, I'm not trying to be. To me, I'm a victim of their success. Like, I can't go back to doing this. I won't go back to doing it.
Right. I get
and I'm not going to sit and. I don't care who he bats in what order, and when he pinch hits and does or doesn't. Like, no. Like, I've now listen. I do flip over and try to catch the Soler at bats because I want to see where his home run total goes.
I mean,
that's intriguing to me.
I do a lot of fast baseball games on the DVR to get a sense of what's going on, and I try to get out there at least once a homestand, usually maybe the day games, so you get a sense of that, and it's often the last game of the homestand, so that you can kind of wrap up the homestand. So anyway, it was I always enjoy going to the baseball game, but I was literally writing a blog, which is at dannyclinkscale.com right now. It wasn't directly about the game, but I was writing it, and I would occasionally comment that, today I'm here at the ballpark, whatever. And so I talked about the Tigers lineup, which included only one player that maybe you've ever heard of, and now, of course, it's going to escape my mind. Who's the shortstop that used to play for Pittsburgh? Jordy
Nelson?
No, not Jordy Nelson.
LaForge?
No. Anyway, doesn't matter. Anyway, so I recognized him, and I said, the rest of the guys you can't. So I named 2 guys, and I said, even if you're a good baseball fan, you probably don't know who these 2 guys are. And as I was writing this is what I wrote, these 2 young men went back-to-back off of Glenn Sparkman to tie the game. And before I finished, Jody Mercer. That's
Jody Mercer, okay.
And before I finished writing this paragraph, the one person I mentioned before you have heard of, Jody Mercer, hit a home run, and now the Tigers are ahead. So, and the Royals actually lost the season series to the Tigers.
Are you convinced Jorge Soler is a guy that needs to be signed and extended?
I still said today, that was one of the parts of the piece that was, talking points. A couple were Alex Gordon. The core that they're going to try to go forward with. Good five-man core, which Alex Gordon to that. Soler would be part of the core if he stays. A month ago, I would have said for sure trade him if you can get a good deal. Now I'm still probably would be in that camp if you got a good return. But I'm not going to sit here and make a strong argument about it. I'll say that.
He's the first player ever to hit 40 home runs in a Royals uniform, doing it in a year that several people might reach 50.
Right, and 35 players.
He's still fifth in all of baseball. He's not 12th or 15th or 18th, like when Kevin Seitzer hit 20 in 87.
Right.
And,
but 35 guys have already hit 30. That's the context we're talking about. Now,
it is.
Now he's fifth.
So it's watered down, but he's still fifth best in the bigs.
He hit the hardest hit ball in the StatCast era last night for his 40th home run.
So
he's got – that's the thing that makes him maybe more valuable for the Royals, because as much as I think the ballpark is overstated immensely, but still that doesn't bother. If it may bother other players, it may rob other players of a couple home runs. When he hits bombs, they're just – he hit it off the Hall of Fame last night. So legit power. If they decide to keep him, fine. I just have this sinking feeling that next year it's 26 homers and 190 strikeouts or something like that. But like I said, now I don't have a strong.
J.D. Martinez.
Now I don't have a strong. Yeah, or he has become J.D. Martinez.
And,
right, no question. And the other part is that this is the first year he's really stayed completely healthy, and. Will that continue? Seems like maybe he's leaned up a little bit, not maybe muscle bound, to use an old phrase. But anyway, it was nice. It's a nice day at the ballpark, and if you want to read my thoughts, you can go to DannyKlingscale.com about that. And I'm sure that's probably where we should stop on the Royals.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. It's that number. Yes. They've got to get, by the way, all the way out to 47 to remove themselves. He's got to get to 47 to remove themselves from having the lowest franchise home run total. It's great that he got to 40.
Right.
Pete Alonso is at 45 for the Mets and looking like he's going to go well beyond that. So that brings the lowest to, did I say 46 or 47?
46.
46. Carlos Pena for the Rays. And
the Nationals, Alfonso Soriano.
Alfonso Soriano with 46 is next. So if the Royals, it's great that we got 40 now
but
on
could be last.
But they'll still be the worst single-season home run record holder until they get to 47, and I don't see 7 more. Do you?
It's possible. He's been pretty hot, but he can't have one more of those little. When he hit 30, he got to 35. He went 2 weeks without a homer. That can happen to any power hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not counting it out. I think
I won't count it out because it's he's got the at-bats. Until he doesn't have enough at-bats, I won't count it out. But
I wouldn't bet on it, but
okay.
I'm not going to be shocked. I mean, because he's on a nice little binge right now. He did strike out to end the game with tying runs on base, but as if that matters, which it doesn't.
Yeah,
it does not. I mean, the whole idea of the piece was that last year they had a strong September. They had just won 4 in a row. Maybe people were looking for another September surge, but what did it matter? They sucked again.
I don't want. I just they're winning games when you don't want to win games. Why are you doing this?
Well, the lineup they put out today indicated they might want to lose a few. I'll say that.
And they had to work to do that, though. Still, they did lead at one point.
Oh yeah.
Of the 30 teams, 10 of them had their home run record season between 93 and 01. That's a 9-year span in which 10 teams, a third of the league, that they managed to get through that whole stretch with 36 still being the number.
I don't think anybody hit more than
just absurd.
I don't think anybody hit more than 32 for them during that span, did they?
Dean Palmer hit 34.
Gaetti
hit 35. And
okay.
That's the other thing. They only played 144 games a year because of the strike. So he missed the first part of the year.
Gaetti was going to get
if he gets to 38, if he'd gotten 2 more, if he'd gotten to past that, or 38, maybe he hits 4 or 5. He gets hot in April or something. That totally changes how, to me, at least greatly changes how that it would have been still 20 years, but 39, 40, that's not as bad as the 36 hung around for that long. But Guidy had a chance to put himself in that record book, and that season gets kind of washed away. But it would have been the record holder had they played a full season. Probably.
And I'm going to say, and here's how we'll transition, Danny, I'm going to say that 36 number was still not as bad, in my opinion, as the 30 touchdowns. That was the record. 14 games by Len Dawson for the Chiefs until Patrick Mahomes blew it up last year with 50. That's and listen.
And it was Len Dawson, wasn't it?
And there are 4 teams at 30 or less right now. Brian Sipes still holds the Browns at 30. That's probably going to fall with Baker Mayfield this year. Eric Kramer holds the Bears record. That is a piss-poor embarrassment of an NFL franchise that's been around for 100 years to have 29 touchdowns by Eric Kramer, a guy who passed through town to still be your record holder.
You know when you want to think of the history of the game and how it ebbs and flows?
Right.
Guess how the Packers and the Bears play tonight, obviously. The Packers lead the all-time series between the two. They've played the most
By
in NFL
2.
history.
They win by 2.
Well, that was the question.
Oh.
When I heard by 2, I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's like
all those horrendous Bears teams and all those great Packers teams?
Well, there's some bad Packers
Oh,
teams,
but they did.
Especially
I mean,
early.
they sort of traded off being, and the Bears were, of course, the monsters of the Midway. But I was still surprised.
Yeah, the pack is 97, 95, and 6, I think I saw was the number. And I believe that they have won 15 of the last 21.
And
Rodgers is like 15 and 6 against the Bears. That's what put them over the top.
The all-time winner against the Bears is Mike McCarthy.
I saw a skit.
Yeah.
What the hell was it? Oh, I guess I just saw a little piece. I don't actually go on and watch it. I like Peyton Manning, but I can't imagine that he's doing a great comedy show, just like I don't think Shaq's got a great comedy show.
Although,
right?
He's very good on those, is it Nationwide? Yeah, Nationwide commercials.
Yeah,
he does a good
for 30
job
seconds.
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole show, probably.
Right? And a skit with professional writers and comedians around him on Saturday Night Live. Bring me Peyton Manning every other week. I'll be thrilled. But I shouldn't say I haven't watched the show, but the little trinkets I've seen, I'm like, that's just not that funny, right? Okay, so, but I was watching a piece of it, and one of them, he was going to visit the guys that did the Bears,
right.
bit, and I don't know why. I guess Sports Center had it on, and they're like, of course, we've had all our great quarterbacks, Sid Luckman. And then finally the other guy goes,
Billy Wade.
Jim McMahon for that one half a season. That's it. That's literally the quarterbacking lineage for one of the marquee franchises in the National Football League. Eric Kramer, 29 is their record. You know the other two that are less? 30 or less?
No.
Sipe and the Browns, Kramer and the Bears. There's a 29 and there's a 28.
Let's think, and not too long. Are they Texans?
Texans, Matt Schaub, 29.
Okay. All right, and
just think of the wave before them, same kind of team, but the 20 years before them.
Bengals?
No, that's not bad. 33 by Andy Dalton is the Bengals record. Jameis Winston of the Bucks at 28.
Wow.
But what's even more fun about that is
he broke Josh Freeman's record from 4 years earlier, who had 27.
Josh.
He shattered the record with 28.
Well, I think what's amazing is before Peyton Manning came to the Broncos, theirs was less than the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. They were 27. John Elway never threw more than 27 touchdowns in a season.
Well, it just was a different world. I mean, 27 was actually a pretty good number at one point in time.
30 in 1970.
Oh, yeah. In
14 games by Len Dawson was phenomenal.
Right.
Or 64.
Whatever.
His 30 was in 64. Yeah, but
64?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Well, that's almost a little less phenomenal because they did fling it around a lot in the old AFL in the early days.
True.
So, I mean, eventually they started to play more what we would call real football. But they had some crazy games back when they were throwing that. You know what I like when you watch old NFL highlights?
What is it, Dan?
When they have.
What do you like?
When they have those early night games and they have the white football.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it didn't last for a real long time.
I think the lights just got better.
Yeah. All right.
The Rams played at night a lot.
First game the Browns played was in the Eagles. That used the white football.
Yeah. All right. So, what is your record on the Chiefs this year?
I'll start off by saying I guess it's just people trying to be a little different. But when I'm watching all these national things, a lot of people have these records for the Chiefs. I'm like, no. Like what?
9-7.
Sports Illustrated had them missing the playoffs. Isn't that correct? Yes.
Well, there was this,
and then ESPN ran every game, and
well, they ran every that is being misrepresented. They ran every game 10,000 times,
right,
and got a consensus. And
but they also had no team winning more than 10 games.
So they pulled one of the 10,000 out there. And it's not, I think I heard somebody say it's the only one that didn't have them making the playoffs. No, that's not it. They just randomly pulled one of the scenarios that were run by the computer. And in this one, it had the Chiefs getting out to 9-4,
consensus.
Dropping 3. No, it was not the consensus. And dropping 3 down the stretch, 2 of which were home games, to fall out of the playoffs at 9-7, lose on tiebreakers at 9-7. I suppose it could happen if the defense isn't better and they don't have a rushing threat and Mahomes is on the run and some injuries happen. Look, anybody can fall to 9-7 in this league.
Well, I'd be surprised with him and the way they're up and running, even with a couple of even reasonably significant injuries. I can't imagine them winning less than 10 in any world. And now I'm going to pick 12, and I think that's a little conservative.
What I'm doing.
I think it's a little conservative. I mean, it's hard to win 13
because they're going to score 30 every damn week.
Yeah,
it's hard to lose when you score 30.
Unless they – I was thinking about this the other day and how to state it. In any game where they have less than 3 turnovers, if they score less than 30 points, I just don't see how they can. I mean, it's just – unless they have a game where they have to kick like 6 field goals. But even then, 2 touchdowns get you.
What was the final
32.
in Jacksonville? Did they get to 30 even? I think it was with Jacksonville, but that came with a Chris Jones touchdown.
It was. I think they got to 40 in that game. I thought it was like. Let me see.
Oh, I didn't think it got that high.
Maybe. Let me check.
I can. I can see. I mean, listen. It seems unfathomable right now, but if you can get to the quarterback, you can stop people.
And if you get to the quarterback, that probably would.
30-14.
30-14
that probably
with a
would
Chris
add
Jones
up to
touchdown.
it, maybe a turnover or 2, and maybe just.
I will point out
they were plus 3 in that game.
They scored 23 offensive points, and they had 4 picks of Blake Bortles.
Yeah, they were plus 3 on the day, and then 420 yards of offense, and plus 3, and still only get.
I was on in Jacksonville earlier today, and they're like, "What does Kansas City think of the Jags?" I said, "Listen, what do you mean the fans?" They're like, yeah. I said, "Not much. Like you're 5-11. That's who you are till you show otherwise." I said, "I believe last year's game was much closer than the final score indicates." I said, I don't think Nick Foles will throw 4 picks. And I said, Patrick Mahomes hadn't thrown an INT. Not one before the Jaguars came. He threw 0. He was 14-0 in 4 games, right? Or 5
yes,
games.
4 games.
4 games. And he comes into that game, throws 0 and 2 picks. I said, now they still won because they're that good. And they were talking about, he was still moving it yards-wise and all that. And I said, yeah, and Kareem Hunt was there, and he's not now. Whatever factor you think that is. I said, but, I don't think Andy Reid's wetting himself.
No.
Right? But they know it's a big challenge. I said, Jacksonville, the defense is real, and they're the one team that I think really did kind of slow down early on, especially with Kareem Hunt. They're the one team that really did slow down the offense because they only got 23 offensive points.
Well, I think that the thing that makes the Chiefs so tough to stop is because even negative plays don't generally kill them. I mean, they get so many chunk plays.
Because the quarterback's willing to take them. Right. Because a 20-yard dig is nothing to him.
Right. No doubt.
Like early in the year, don't you remember having those moments like, it's 3rd and 3 and he's firing it 19 yards down the field and you're like, what are you? Oh, awesome. Yay.
There you go.
It was a no, yes. Yeah.
Right.
Bad jumper in basketball. And then it got by the end of the year, you're like, looking for the go route on 3rd and 2. Because it wasn't this like send 4 guys 3 yards and turn around like the way it was with Alex Smith.
Yeah. For whatever his talents were, Smith, 3rd and 15, you're like, forget it. They're not getting it.
No, what you were hoping for is that the receivers would drive the DBs far enough back and he could run for it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how 3rd and longs were converted with Alex Smith. It wasn't him just dropping it and spinning it.
That's why it's so hard, because getting them in bad down and distance situations, which normally is a good thing, doesn't matter as much because they can convert a 3rd and 13, and it's not a big deal. And then they're probably good for 1 to 2 long touchdowns per game, where just somebody gets out the gate, and most people aren't good for that many. That's about 20 touchdowns like that, and I'd say I'm not going to say that that's not going to happen, and most teams are going to get plays like that like once every 3 weeks. So, but maybe other teams are develop because the Chiefs are so high powered. Other teams, unless they do have the quarterback, I think are going to want to play possession football, even if they have, what they consider a pretty good offense. Well, we got to keep them off the field. And so maybe that can tone down just the entire game a little bit, where you only get 7 or 8 possessions instead of 10 or 11.
Last year, I'm looking at their one-score games, right? They beat Pittsburgh. It only ended up being 1 score. My recollection is there was an by the way by Pittsburgh that cut it. It was 42-30, and Pittsburgh tacked a 7 on.
I think they actually made it a game, cut it to a score on a couple occasions. And then
were they possessing the ball?
I don't know.
All right, let's talk about this. We'll take a break. Jed wants to break. We'll break it up, and we'll come back. We'll talk about 12-4 last year. Were they closer to 14-2 or 10-6? All right, we'll do that next. Danny Clinkscale's with us. He's brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Commercial, residential, integrity, it matters. Go to eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way, and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
He logged the first 40-homer season for 2 different franchises. Who is he? We were discussing teams that had their first 40-homer guy.
Carlos Pena.
Nope.
What was it again?
First 40-homer season for 2 different franchises. Who might he be? You got this earlier today when we discussed at lunch.
Jimmy Fox?
Jimmy Fox. I was just about to say Jimmy Fox.
1932 A's, 1936 Red Sox.
Yes, indeed.
Not the record holder for either team, but the first 40-homer season for those 2.
If he could have just laid off the bottle a little, he might have been the greatest hitter of all time.
Yep.
I think he is the record holder for 2, isn't he?
Yeah, he probably is for the A's, but not for the Red Sox.
I think he hit
the Red
the
Sox.
most. Did he hit the most home runs of anyone in his 20s?
David Ortiz is for
He
the
hit
Red
the most
Sox.
home runs of anybody in his 20s.
I have. It was the inspiration for Tom Hanks' character in League of Their Own.
Yes, indeed.
He was Jimmy Dugan.
It is the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, playing for great Cajun food from Jazz, a Louisiana Kitchen, Racetrack, 39th State Line by the Med Center. Great place for you to go for dinner tonight. Independence as well, live music, great Cajun food, great service. It's Jazz, a Louisiana Kitchen. So we would love to see you there, as I will be meeting some friends of mine there in a few days. Great spot, Jazz, a Louisiana Kitchen. Danny Clinkscale's with us. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Of course, you can read his work at DannyClinkscale.com.
You can hear the Reasonably Irreverent podcast there as well. Tomorrow, our Kansas City, we're going to reprise the Kansas City profiles tomorrow, bring a little Chiefs history to the mix.
Oh, good.
With Chiefs ambassador Larry Marshall.
Very good.
But since this is, the Chiefs are trying to make this a historic season, look back on the halcyon days of the Chiefs back in the 70s.
Danny, were the Chiefs last year closer to being a 10-6 team, or were they closer to being a 14-2 team? By that I mean, or was, I guess you could say, no, 12-4 is exactly what they were. which is kind of difficult when you see their defense. But one-score games, I was mentioning Pittsburgh. Did you look that up on how
they were up 42-28. Pittsburgh got a safety and then a touch in the final minutes to narrow it to 5.
Did they
They never had the ball with a chance to take the lead.
Okay, so they never had the ball with a chance to take the lead.
I was looking at the breakdowns of the 4 games. Like if you want any information on that.
At Denver, they won by 4, 27-23.
They were down 10 in the fourth quarter
and had to roar back to pull that one out of the fire.
23-13.
They lost to the Patriots, a game that they could have won, but they had to rally to get there. Never led, so I'm fine taking that as an L. Won by 7 at home against the Broncos.
Yeah, never trailed in that game.
Never trailed.
Not late. They led.
Who got the last score?
Let me see. Last score: Broncos 30-23. That one was Denver a field goal. It was 30-14 and late in the third.
Okay.
Chiefs in command all day.
Then they lost the shootout with the Rams. That one could have gone either way.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
That's a game that they had the lead in the final minute and couldn't hold it.
Would have been nice if Cam Irving had blocked somebody.
Yeah.
7-point win over the Raiders on December 2nd. An OT win against the Ravens. We know they pulled that one out of the fire. That's one you could say, well, that's 11-5.
Yeah.
Because they really had to go get that, so they had to rally against the Broncos. Chargers, they blew that one.
28-14 in the fourth.
And Seahawks, I remember being very disappointed in the game. 38-31, lost to the Seahawks.
They were kind of behind all day in that game, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. But I thought they had an opportunity and then blew it. Anyway, then crushed the Raiders.
They never led in that game past 10-7. They were kind of 24-20, 31-20, 31-28, 38-28, 38-31. Seattle kept answering every score they made.
So I kind of think 12-4 is what they were.
Yeah, I agree with that. The games that we remember that got back into the hat were ones but the Chiefs won, were ones that the Chiefs had a significant lead, and then you're like, oh my God, really? The defense did this again. Patrick Mahomes should be out of here by now, and so those were games that they won and had control of, and the other team just kind of made it nervous time.
I think they had 2 on either side. You mentioned the Chargers and the Rams are games that they should have won but lost. And the Broncos and Ravens are games they probably should have lost but won. If you're going to say should, being down 10 in the fourth quarter at Denver is not a game you should win, but they won that game. And they pulled Baltimore out of the fire.
And that was the left-handed pass.
Yeah.
I mean, that was magic.
Yeah. And so I think they were a 12-4 team. And so now we embark on this year, and we're all quite optimistic that defensively they're going to be better. The 53, I know is kind of old news because it came out on last Saturday, but are you surprised by anything in the roster? Are you surprised that LaShawn McCoy is here?
Well, I'm not surprised that LaShawn McCoy is here, but it does create, to me, on a 53, they probably, they're going to play 4 corners on Sunday. To me, they probably could have used something else. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches. I'm not saying that he can't help, especially in small doses. I think that's great.
What else? What was cut that you think would have helped?
Not necessarily cut. I mean, from other teams, maybe you could have acquired.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy was cut.
Right.
And they signed him.
I can't come up with a specific example, but I'd rather see something at the linebacker spot and I'm not really negative about it, but if you're going to go to war with 4 corners and you don't think they're all that good, I mean, and the linebacker core I think we're all nervous about, whoever the best one that was cut. I don't know. It's $4 million, so clearly the price wasn't that much of a stumbling block for them.
To me, they already did get that guy. His name's Morris Claiborne. Yeah. That'll be your 5th corner when after 4 games.
Right, that's true. But you could have signed somebody up and then cut them, or cut somebody else because they're better.
I'm a little disappointed that there was anybody who could make the roster. Right? I mean, I think at some point you ought to be where you're cutting guys. Your guys go somewhere else. You're not grabbing somebody. I mean, this is the Buffalo Bills who cut a guy. Now, I think there was cap implications as to why the Bills were doing it. There was a big cap savings.
I don't think he was a happy camper there, and they probably were just like, why? We're not competing for likely competing for the playoffs this year. Why have a sour apple here?
I would rather, if we were to say he's now, at one point he was a 9 on a running back scale of 1 to 10, and today he's a 6. I'm all for signing a running back that's a 6 as opposed to signing a corner that's a 3. Well, just because it's a bigger need.
Totally agree with that. But
And I didn't see, there was no corner that signed anywhere that I was like, well, why weren't they on that guy?
I can't say that I'm not going to say that I scanned the waiver wire. I'm just saying that
I get the philosophical thing that you're saying.
But the LaShawn McCoy, now you're going to have spent potentially $5.5 million on two running backs who are veterans, and there's the possibility that LaShawn McCoy is done.
Yeah.
Seth
Kaiser says no. Says the quick feet are there. Even though the numbers are terrible, he made somebody miss on virtually every time he got the ball. It's just the whole defense was in the back. But we're going to find out because that has not been the problem in Kansas City.
Right.
So if he's 2.8 yards per carry for Kansas City, he sucks and he's done, and this is a bad signing.
Right.
Period.
Right. And this is all, nipping at the margins. But I went into camp feeling like, okay, the defense is going to make maybe not a gigantic step, but a significant enough one. I don't really feel that way right now. I think they could be just about as bad. They look like they can be run on again. I don't think the secondary. We haven't seen Tyrann Mathieu play for them, so that's and then as you say, Mo Claiborne comes aboard for the fifth week. Although he's not been a world beater in his NFL career. So
the scary part for me is more about where they're going in the future. Because I think they're finally getting to where their D-line's pretty good and their safeties are good.
Yeah, that's the thing that's the thing that's surprising.
And corners, I still feel like there's still so many holes.
They have Frank Clark now, but and D Ford was really purely a pass rusher. But we looked at pieces, Chris Jones, et cetera, and it looked like a reasonably salty group on the defensive line, and they just get run over in the ground game. People can blame.
So is your point, what's to think it's going to suddenly be better now?
Yeah, it is. Because I think Frank Clark is a reasonably good all-around player, but I think he's made his bones as a pass rusher.
If I were given the assignment of debating that the Chiefs' defense is going to be better in a high school debate class, I'd say a year of experience with Derek Nottie. I would say that Frank Clark is definitively better than
D
Ford.
Justin Houston really didn't play good football for the Chiefs on a consistent basis. Great. Let me say great football.
Right.
He played some good football.
Yeah, and he was not as good at setting the edge last year for whatever reason. I think he just totally didn't want to be here. If he roars out and has a big year, I'll say it's disappointing because you should not get sideways with your star players, but he wasn't engaged. The same guy. I don't think he was engaged. Eric Berry didn't play last year. If Matthew plays, that's an upgrade.
Well,
Thornhill
also,
plays,
as many people
have
pointed out, Eric Berry isn't even on a football team right now.
No, and they were running out there, Daniel Sorensen, and I don't think Eric Berry wants to play ball. I'm telling you, that's what I'm being told is that it's done. And so I don't think Eric Berry wanted to play last year.
Right.
So I think you had a couple of guys that were kind of like, whatever. And so I think it's entirely possible the attitude's a lot better. The scariest thing for me, and I'm generally like, listen, if I have great corners and a great D-line, I'm fine. I'll put the rest together. I think safety is becoming more and more important. I think particularly in a 4-3 scheme, right? Not putting edge rushers with linebackers. In a 4-3 scheme, your least important spot is your linebackers. If your defensive linemen are blowing people up and the linebackers can run free, you can virtually play with corners there and they'll go get people. I don't see what they're going to cover. They asked me, how do you beat the Chiefs? I said, well, I don't know what – if they're going to start Damian Wilson, Anthony Hitchens, and Reggie Ragland, I don't know that the Jags have the right personnel. I would start T.J. Yeldon against the Chiefs if he were there. He's not. He's in Buffalo. But, they're going to pound Leonard Fournette. That's the wrong game plan. That's one of the reasons why I like the Chiefs against the Jags. But throwing to the running back.
I agree with that.
Any team that's got a running back that can catch the ball is going to smoke the crap out of this team. Because I don't see who those guys are going to cover.
Yeah, totally agree. And
Damian Wilson came off the field on passing downs for Dallas.
Right.
So
that is an area that I think people should be thinking that they should exploit more. I think sometimes offensive coordinators are like, well, we just can't throw screens all day long. Why not? Why not if it works? Or a little, turn circle patterns and, what's wrong with 5 or 6, 7 yards on first down, which is an easy throw for your quarterback.
Oh, Tim Grenhard said it. He said, who was he? I can't remember one of his offense coordinators. I'll just leave it. I don't know if he said it on the air or off the air. So let's not make it Tim. Let's make it an unnamed offensive lineman. Named an offensive coordinator and was like, this guy was a moron. But if we had a play that worked, he would run it every time. And he goes, and that's one of the most frustrating things is, like, we have this stuff that works. Quit trying to get cute over here with this other stuff. And so,
well, how many times do you see the NFL offensive coordinators, 1st and goal from the 2, they get stuffed. They almost always throw on 2nd down. I mean, if you thought it was a good play on 1st down, try it again. I mean, you know.
Well, if you don't, why are you trying it on 1st down?
Yeah, I'll give credit to Josh McDaniels.
I'd rather throw it on 1st down.
I'll give credit to Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick last year when they came out and said, bully ball, we're going to pound you with the run. And because I think so many teams have been like, listen, they can't nickel and dime you to death. That what kills you are the big plays, so let's take away the big plays, and we'll try to get a run blitz and get somebody in the backfield to set up a long down and distance, force them to throw, and then we'll get them turned over on downs like that. And they just went, no, the Chargers sat in nickel and dime coverage all day, and they ran the ball down their throats. There are not many offensive coordinators that will have that kind of discipline.
Agreed, and that's what the Ravens tried to do when they came here, and they were pretty successful with it. Mm-hmm. And
well, that to me was what I said last year. I said the biggest. I'll tell you what their horrible coverage is doing for the Kansas City Chiefs, covering up how horrible they are at stopping the run.
Right.
Like, people would always talk about the coverage part because it's more glaring because it's generally results in a bigger play. But when you're constantly in 2nd and 3.
Yeah, that was the thing. It wasn't like they gave up a pile of 50-yard runs. It was just, it seemed so easy for the other team to get 6. You know, I mean, and then it's an NFL team with rules like this. They've got 2 downs to get 4 yards. I mean, what are your chances?
They allowed 150 yards rushing 8 times last year.
In a league where
8.
That probably where teams don't even want to bother to run anymore.
And 150 per, it leads the league by 40 yards, doesn't it? I mean, who led the league in rushing last year? It couldn't have been more than 125 or something like that, I wouldn't think.
Baltimore had a monster number.
Yeah, they might have had a big because they just did run the ball.
But they might even have finished second.
Seattle,
I think was 1, and I can tell you, I got it right here.
But they had a quarterback who ran for 600 or 700 yards too, probably. They both did.
Yeah. And the 2 biggest days against Chiefs were the Seahawks and Ravens, the running quarterback.
Yeah, but Wilson, what is Wilson's rushing totals in the year? He wasn't Lamar Jackson.
No, I don't think he was either, but. Maybe
Russell Wilson ran
he likes to throw now.
376 yards.
Yeah,
and
wrong.
376? Okay, yeah. The Jaguars, is this right? What is it? No, it's the 2017 postseason. Give me the damn 18 regular season, you stupid.
Yeah, in that game they got.
Seattle was 160 a game, Ravens 153. And then the Rams, 139.
He did hit him for 57 that night, but they got 116 from Chris Carson and 31 from Mike Davis. So it was just pound.
2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, right.
We'll talk about
not even the best Mike Davis to play.
They're opening the doors to Canton for those 2.
Not even the best Mike Davis to play.
If they pay $15 or whatever it is.
It's Danny Unleashed with Danny Clinkscale. You can read his work at DannyClinkscale.com. We will take a break. Danny's brought to you by Easton Roofing, Commercial, Residential. Integrity, it matters. You pay nothing until you're 100% satisfied. Credit cards and PayPal are accepted. Easton Roofing, check out their incredible reviews on Google. They can handle the work at your house like they did at our house, Danny's house, my house. It's Easton Roofing, proud sponsor of Danny Unleashed.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
tell me we're back. Crying out loud. Sitting right here.
You mean like when I streamed 30?
No, I couldn't say we're back then because we were on mic.
Oh.
We're back.
We're back.
Hey.
We're back here on the program.
We
Sports
are.
Radio 810 WHP. Danny Unleashed with Danny Klingscale from DannyKlingscale.com. Brought to you by Easton Roofing. Commercial and residential. By the way, they are happy to do repairs and make sure if you think you got some storm damage, get a free storm inspection. Putting in erroneous claims to the insurance, as much as some of these knock-on-door type of roofing companies might want you to, can actually cause you a lot of problems. Don't do it. Go to eastonroofing.com and get yourself rolling with a free inspection of any damage before you get an erroneous claim on your record. Danny, Missouri Tigers.
Calamitous.
Wow.
I mean, I wasn't going to, I DVR'd the game, and then I just sort of put it out of my mind because I was like, I watched a lot of college football that day. Watching the whole Kansas game is a lot of work, I'll say that, even in that win.
Well, watching an Iowa State game took me, I believe, 6 hours.
Right.
I mean, that one would not end.
So then literally I'm watching something else with my wife, and I think we're watching the tennis. And I'm
a huge fan of the U.S. Open,
then it comes on. Yeah, we've been watching a lot. Then it comes on the crawl. I'm like, oh my God, they lost. I literally couldn't believe it. I couldn't.
I watched it and I couldn't believe it, even after it happened.
Well,
it was sort
is
of
it your first time watching Mizzou?
It was sort of the two games, the Kansas game and the Missouri game, were kind of converse in the fact that Missouri had all the numbers in the game. They had control early. You can really make a case that they should have won. The quarterback made a couple of really grievous blunders. And then on the other side, Indiana State outplayed Kansas, but they got the win.
They outgained them. They out time of possession them.
And their quarterback made two unbelievably bad plays in that game. He threw an interception in the end zone on first down, and he threw a pick six, which could have been his wide receivers, but it was right to the defensive back for an easy score. But they won. That's the thing that really makes a difference. I mean, it sounds simple, but that was a game they didn't look like the better football team all day long. Now, to their damn credit, I think everybody thought they were going to lose when they gave up that touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
And they just zipped it down the field. And Carter Stanley, who was anything but great in the game, but has moxie. I mean, his middle name should be Moxie, a word that's only used for guys like Carter Stanley, and probably half the people, when they hear the word, don't even know what it is. And the other thing to
do you think he was that bad? Like I heard Kansas fans act like.
Well, he had 3 turnovers. A couple of them were bad ones. The one for the touchdown wasn't, I guess, his fault, but you really have to protect the football a little bit better in that case. I don't care what you're doing. Put two hands on it. But darn if he didn't show some stuff. And the other part was they didn't take him out. They let him play all day. Now, to me, going into the game, it's a little disappointing that Carter Stanley is the quarterback. I mean, we know what he is, and you would have hoped that McVitie would be better. That he would beat him out, and he didn't.
That's what I think. I think people are like, I've seen Stanley.
Right.
He's not going to be Todd Reesing. Maybe McVitie will.
Right, exactly. That's all. And it really puts West Virginia didn't look very good last week, although James Madison is quite good and is, I think, the favorite to win the national championship in their division. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this game for Missouri because they're still not really playing for anything. There's been no ruling. They lose 2 off the top, and they're like, well, what the hell? We're not even going to a bowl game anyway. No, I mean, it's human nature.
I'm with you.
So
it's just you're throwing up of the hands.
Right. So big game Saturday for the Tigers.
I agree.
And they did enough good things that you shouldn't feel like it was a disaster. But it was supposed to be D-line zoo again, and they gave up 300 yards rushing.
To a team that couldn't pass.
Danny, great stuff, buddy. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great. Always.
Check him out.
DannyKlingscale.com. Reasonably irreverent commentary.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.